You're watching Sky World News on our website, skynews.com. Sounding the wrong note, why George Michael has got a date in court. And coming up, a natural disaster, the theories about how Portugal's wildfires were started. And saying goodbye, how a murdered aid worker is being remembered in Afghanistan. Now let's cross to Summit TV.
Good morning, I'm Samay Zaki from Summit TV. Here's a look at how the bourses were last trading across the African continent. In Southern Africa, Botswana's domestic index fell almost 0.1%. The oil share in South Africa was marginally firmer, and the LUSE in Zambia showed almost 0.25%. Moving to West Africa, Ghana's oil share was down 0.06%, and Nigeria's oil share lost 0.18%. In East Africa, Kenya's NSE was down 0.1%. The Semdex in Mauritius was 0.2% weaker, and Uganda's composite was more than 2% down. Taking a look at the currencies now in Southern Africa, US dollar buys you 6.68 Botswana Pula, 7.27 South African Rands and 4,904 Zambian Kwacha. In West Africa, you pay 1.47 Ghanaian cedi a dollar, more than 494 Ivory Coast francs, and over 148 Nigerian naira for the greenback. Finally, in East Africa, you get about 76 Kenyan shillings for a dollar, 28 Mauritian rupees, and 2,166 Ugandan shillings. That's, of course, for $1 US. I'm Samay Zaki with a look at what's making business news on the African continent. Africa's biggest gold miner, AngloGold Ashanti, has beaten profit forecasts. It's crediting its South African mines and the higher gold price. Earnings jumped to 35 US cents a share for the 3 months ended June. That's more than double the previous quarter and more than 20% above market forecasts. Production rose 4.6% to just over 1.1 million ounces. That's above its own forecast. Output in South Africa jumped 16% and by 7% in the Americas. The group's predicting output will rise in the 3 months ended September as well. It also has mines in the DRC, Guinea and Australia. Car makers in South Africa are losing about 2,100 vehicles a day. That's thanks to the ongoing strike action there. The likes of GM, Toyota and BMW have halted production. About half that output is destined for export. Workers are demanding 15% in pay hikes. Employers say that's unrealistic and they're offering just 7%. They say any more than that will affect the competitiveness of the sector. South Africa's car and car parts industry accounts for about 6% of GDP. It's also the country's biggest manufacturing exporter. Moving to Madagascar very briefly, and the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization is seeking $15 million to fight a plague of locusts. It's warned farming is at risk, and with it nearly 500,000 families. The locusts are usually contained in the island's southwest corner, but several swarms have spread east and north. Unless they're checked before the rainy season, their numbers will balloon. The organization wants the money for aerial surveillance and for biopesticide sprays. Just time now to wrap up other headlines from across Africa. Angola's parliament has approved its 2010 budget. Spending will rise by 28% on last year to $43 billion. South Africa's mining output fell 4.9% year-on-year in June, thanks largely to lower platinum production. And South African competition authorities want to fine petrochemicals group Sasol 10% of its sales. That's for rigging the market for polymers. Sasol insists it's done nothing wrong. I'm Samay Zaki. That's the African Business News Roundup from Johannesburg. It's back to you in London.
The Asahi Shimbun has a story on a piano discovered in Siberia that used to be played to Japanese prisoners of war during the Second World War. The Sydney Morning Herald shows evacuees in Pakistan leaping to safety as a relief truck drives through the floods. The Australian leads on Australian Prime Minister Julia Gillard's election campaign in Tasmania. Kenya's Daily Nation reports that members of the reigning ODM parliamentary party who campaigned against the constitution will face party discipline. The Sowetan leads on the murders of the illegal miners in South Africa. They were gunned down underground on Monday. The Witness reports that patients are being turned away from hospitals and clinics in South Africa as nurses join the public sector strike. The Mercury pictures the passenger plane that overshot the runway at Rio de Janeiro's airport yesterday. This is Sky World News. Coming up, the man behind the Matchstick Men. The Lowry paintings expected to raise £5 million.